What's happening, fam? L.A.R movement still moving. Subscribe or die trying. You see the thumbnail. Is the talented 10th incompetent? I gotta ask this question. Part of the Keith Ellison thing. I was listening to somebody else talk about the talented 10th on YouTube. W.E. Judge Joe Brown was listening to a clip of him on DJ Vlad, and I had to ask the question to myself when I was listening to him. The idea of the talented 10th was basically the intelligentsia, the most intelligent people in the group come together and brainstorm, or have a, pretty much a brainstorm to be the minds of the community. And you would say that the talented 10th probably is the underbelly or the cornerstone or the foundation to even the civil rights movement, because they had an older generation of folks who put the youth in front. You know what I'm saying? For a reason. But say in the last 40 years, it seems like the talented 10th, as far as intelligentsia, is incompetent, because what was the Congressional Black Caucus started in 1971, I want to say. That should have been a part of the talented 10th, you would think, because that's leadership, that's politics, that's the land of intelligentsia, right? Supposedly, I know, but completely incompetent. And then you got the shift in the household where, excuse me, where basically people get upset that these kids, you want these kids to grow to be athletes and rappers. And it's like, well, because, the scientists didn't do too well, I guess. The lawyers and doctors somehow just stopped being lawyers and doctors. I don't know. I don't know what happened with that. I really don't. I really can't say as far as the talented 10th is concerned. Maybe, it wasn't as marketable as people wanted to say. But the fact that people think about the talented 10th as people who are either financially well off or highly intelligent. And unfortunately, I think what wound up happening was it was a bit of people look at the talented 10th as the bourgeoisie, and that's not necessarily the same people. The bourgeoisie is people who were well off, the investors and the families, the wealthy families who can invest. That doesn't mean that these were the people who were the brains behind the culture. So when you look at who's the brains behind the culture, now it's musicians. You know what I'm saying? Like, when people talk about the culture, they're pretty much talking about hip hop. They're not talking about R&B. They're not talking about jazz. They're not talking about rock and roll. If anybody's non-black, come here. What do you mean black people invented rock and roll? I'm sorry, I broke your heart by saying that. But they're just talking about predominantly hip hop culture. And how that culture just kind of evolved into every other thing else. And then we got to deal with the fact that when you think about the smartest of black people, you're not thinking about people who are educated. You're not thinking about the George Washington Carver types. You know what I'm saying? We think sometimes as an intellectual, we might think more of a Malcolm X being smart compared to George Washington Carver. Or you say the intelligence of Fred Hampton, who died so young. Martin Luther King Jr. was a highly intelligent brother. Highly intelligent. So we go down the rabbit hole of, well, where are the talented 10th and what are they doing? And then when people say, black men don't build and what happened to the black community, nobody ever puts that on the talented 10th, which kind of lets you know how incompetent it was, because to have a talented 10th and the lack of growth in the community not be put at the feet of the talented 10th should say a lot. So now when people say they're talented, they're part of the quote unquote sellout class because they got themselves out of the hood, out of the ways of the people that are in their same group, and they just decide to bounce and go away because, you know, growth and progression is not quote unquote what the people wanted if you're a quote unquote talented person. So at the end of the day, it's like, the talented 10th was supposed to be the talented 10th, regardless of how the people responded to it. You know, the results can speak for themselves, and as far as the results go, they're not good. Like the talented 10th doesn't look that talented. You know, that's basically what happened because they had the talented 10th have little to nothing to show for the talent. So, you know, I think they just lost. That's just more of a mantra or a title than anything else. And tell me if you agree or disagree. Like, share, subscribe, or die trying. Peace.